The biggest merger and acquisition deals in history. Did they last? A record-breaking 63,000 mergers and acquisitions occurred in 2021, spanning from large global agreements to smaller regional deals. Financial transactions of this type, regardless of size or scale, are always tricky and delicate at even the best of times. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the biggest merger and acquisition deals in history and how these deals have fared so far. At the end of the video, you will have found inspiration or warning in some of the largest mergers and acquisitions of all time, especially if you're currently considering a merger or acquisition. So sit back, relax with your favorite drink, and enjoy the ride. Remember to do clickety-clack on the like button and do a tap dance on the notification bell so you get to know when we release videos on the channel. Beyond the big successes, when it comes to mergers and acquisitions, bigger doesn't necessarily mean better, as you'll see as we go through the video. In fact, all things being equal, the bigger a deal becomes, the bigger the likelihood that the buyer is overpaying for the target company. That said, let's go on to see the biggest M&A deals in history and how well they fared. Number 1. Vodafone and Mannesmann, 1999, $202.8 billion. The largest acquisition ever made as of June of 2022 was Vodafone's takeover of Mannesmann in 2000, which was valued at $203 billion. In this deal, Vodafone, a British mobile operator, bought Mannesmann, a German-owned industrial group. This acquisition-like transaction gave Vodafone the world's largest mobile operator and laid the stage for dozens of mega acquisitions in the mobile telecommunications market in the years that followed. This transaction will be remembered as the largest acquisition in history. Number 2. AOL and Time Warner, 2000, $182 billion. When I said in the intro of this video that bigger doesn't necessarily mean better, the famous merger of AOL and Time Warner in 2000 is a prime example. In just over 2 decades, the transaction has become the standard example of how not to execute mergers and acquisitions. It included everything from overpaying to stark culture divides, and with the benefit of hindsight, 2 huge media firms that simply didn't know where the media landscape was headed. The merger's valuation plummeted once the dot-com bubble burst, barely 2 months after it was inked. 8 years after the agreement, the price of the Time Warner stock has dropped by more than 80%, and the merger was canceled. Number 3. Gaz de France and Suez, 2007, $182 billion. France adores her national champions, which are significant French corporations that compete on a global scale while waving their flag. It came as no surprise when Nicolas Sarkozy, president of France 2007, intervened to salvage a merger. That's right, a president working as a part-time investment banker. Suez is now one of the oil and gas majors. However, the fact that the company's share price is fairly near to where it was a decade and a half ago tells us everything we need to know about what investors thought of the purchase. As one of the greatest energy mergers in history, the deal formed the world's 4th largest energy firm and Europe's 2nd largest power and gas group. The merging enterprises produced a diverse and adaptable energy supply chain. Number 4. Verizon and Vodafone, 2013, $130 billion. Vodafone has been involved in so many transactions over the last 2 decades that it should be fairly efficient at this point. The $130 billion deal in 2013 enabled Verizon to fund its US cellular division. At the time, the transaction was the 3rd largest in history, with Vodafone having participated in 2 of them. From Verizon's perspective, it gave the company full control over its wireless division, putting an end to an often contentious relationship with Vodafone, and has lasted more than a decade, while also allowing it to build new mobile networks and compete in an increasingly competitive landscape at the time. According to Vodafone, the acquisition reduced the company's worth by almost half to $100 billion. The business acquisition also dropped Vodafone from 2nd to 4th place in the world, trailing China Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon. Number 5. Dow Chemical and DuPont merger, 2015, $130 billion. When Dow Chemical and DuPont announced their merger in 2015, everyone took notice. The merger of equals would produce the world's largest chemicals firm by sales, as well as eliminate rivalry between them, making it a textbook example of a horizontal merger. Shortly after the merger was completed, the firm was already generating $86 billion in sales per year. But it didn't last long. In 2019, management announced that the merged company would be split into 3 different organizations, each with a distinct purpose. Number 6. United Technologies and Raytheon, 2019, $121 billion. Another well-known merger example is the merger of equals. Given that the United Technologies and Raytheon merger closed in the first half of 2020, the long-term impact is yet to be felt. Not the best of years to close a transaction in. The merged business, Raytheon Technologies, argues that the merger, quote, defines the future of aerospace and defense and establishes the world's most advanced aerospace and defense systems provider. With the deal complete, Raytheon can now exploit United Technologies' high expertise in temperature material for jet engines, and United Technologies has applicable power generation and management technology for directed energy weapons. By the fourth year after the merger was completed, the firms expected to capture $1 billion in annual cost synergies, largely at the corporate level. Investors, on the other hand, appear to have been less convinced, with the company's share price dropping by approximately 25% immediately after the deal was concluded. Number 7. AT&T and Time Warner, 2018, $108 billion. When the proposed merger of AT&T and Time Warner was announced, it not only drew condemnation from antitrust officials, but also brought up memories of the last time when Warner was involved in a mega deal. With nearly 2 decades to learn from its error, and AT&T being a far greater revenue generator than AOL, this deal appears to be more well thought out than the one that came before it. Number 8. AB InBev and SAB Miller merger, 2015, $107 billion. If a stock price is any indication of whether our deal was successful or not, the combination of InBev and SAB Miller in 2015 was most emphatically not. On paper, the merger appeared to be a good one. Two of the world's largest brewers combining a slew of popular beers into a single stable. The only problem was that they didn't anticipate the rise of craft beers and how it would disrupt the brewing sector. After several bolt-on acquisitions of craft beers, the new corporation may be back on track. Number 9. Glaxo Wellcome and SmithKline Beecham merger, 2000, $107 billion. The merger of the UK's 2 largest pharmaceutical companies in 2000 resulted in what is now the world's 6th largest pharmaceutical firm and the only British firm in the top 10. However, like numerous other agreements on this list, it was not well welcomed by investors and is currently selling at roughly 25% less than the time at the merger. This, along with a slew of bolt-on consumer purchases during the last decade, may explain why the corporation intends to divide into 2 companies in the coming years. Number 10. Heinz and Kraft merger, 2015, $100 billion. The merger of Heinz and Kraft to form the Kraft-Heinz company is another mega deal that has seen a negative impact on stock prices. The transaction has been dubbed a mega mess, with the stock price plummeting by billions since it was completed. Allegations about accounting methods at the 2 firms prior to mergers are one of the causes. Another cause has been the zero-based budgeting, ZBB, a severe cost-cutting system that arrived at the time when older brands needed to be renewed rather than having their budgets reduced. Number 11. Bristol-Myers Squibb and Celgene merger, 2019, $95 billion. Despite its enormous scale, the 2019 mega deal was not a merger of equals. Celgene was instead acquired by Bristol-Myers Squibb. The acquisition brings together 2 of the world's leading cancer medicine makers, thus the agreement should be considerably more than the sum of its parts. And that brings us to the end of our list of the 11 largest corporate mergers and acquisitions in history. To wrap up the video, let's draw the line between the 2 terms, merger and acquisition. Merger. A merger is a transaction between 2 firms, usually of similar size, in which the owners of 2 separately joint companies jointly own the shares of the resulting company. Acquisition. An acquisition is a transaction in which one firm outright buys another company's company, organization, and/or assets for a fee. The motivation for one company acquiring another is almost always growth. Acquisition is a method used by business to expand their product lines. For example, Coca-Cola acquired Monster in 2015. It can also be used to solidify a roll-up strategy, as in Salesforce's acquisition of Slack in 2021, or to acquire technology, as Google did when it paid $50 million for Android in 2005, allowing it to enter the cell phone industry for the first time. To say this acquisition was a success would be an understatement. By 2020, the Android operating system was operating more than 70% of the world's mobile technology, with this percentage expected to rise in the coming years. If you've watched up until this point, then you deserve a treat. There have been a number of large-scale mergers and acquisitions in recent years, and while we don't know the long-term viability of these mergers and acquisitions, they may have excellent potential and you should keep a watch on them. Here's an interesting statistic according to a report by law firm White & Case. The total value of mergers and acquisitions for 2022 rose to $2.6 trillion, with BMO Financial Group and Bank of the West 2021 at $105 billion, Walt Disney and 21st Century Fox 2017 at $84.2 billion, Microsoft and Activision Blizzard 2022 at $6.87 billion, S&P Global and IHS Markit 2020 at $44 billion, Nvidia and ARM Holding 2020 at $40 billion, Altimeter and Grab Holdings 2021 at $40 billion, AstraZeneca and Alexion Pharmaceuticals 2020 at $39 billion, and Lionheart Acquisition Corp and MSP Recovery 2021 at $32.6 billion. Here's a list of recent successful mergers and acquisitions. Number 1. Facebook's and WhatsApp acquisition 2014 at $22 billion. In 2014, Facebook acquired WhatsApp in a $22 billion deal. And although the internet was saturated with comments using the word overpaid, Time and the platform's 70 million users in the United States alone have proved them wrong. With thousands of businesses joining the platform every day, the app offers Facebook the opportunity to attract more businesses into its advertising program. Number 2. Charles Schwab and TD Ameritrade merger 2019. The Charles Schwab and TD Ameritrade's 2019 merger appears to be a long-term value builder. That has already been reflected on the stock price, which is significantly higher than when the arrangement was announced. The transaction gives the amalgamated company a considerable internet footprint in the online brokerage market. With trading fees on the down, it's simple to see how size will become increasingly important. Number 3. Salesforce and Slack acquisition 2021 at $27.7 billion. Finally, despite the fact that it has only recently been concluded, Salesforce's acquisition of Slack for a reported sum of $27.7 billion appears to be a winning combination. The merger is the second largest ever for a software company, the largest being IBM's acquisition of Red Hat in 2019, but it already appears to have the potential to generate significant benefits for both companies. Time will tell, but this one appears to be a contender. Conclusion. Reading over this list, it may appear that most mega deals are doomed to fail, at least from the perspective of the shareholders. But happily, this is not the case. Some of the largest transactions in the last 20 years have been spectacular triumphs. Many of these transactions accomplished their initial goal of reshaping sectors on the strength of a single transaction. Overall, it's difficult to say which deal in US history was the greatest successful merger or acquisition because the entire value and potential of a deal might take years to develop. Top mergers and acquisitions, on the other hand, incorporate best practices such as strong communication, a focus on the strategic goal or deal thesis, and early integration planning throughout the deal lifecycle. Companies that have successfully merged with or bought other companies can teach us a lot. And that's it for today's video, guys. If you stayed up until this point, you must have enjoyed watching the video. Go ahead and give the video a like and drop a comment in the comment section below. Also, remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of the action. And until next time, have a productive week.